Welcome back. This is installment 8 in a series of tutorials designed to introduce the novice user to Inspiration 8. In the previous 7 tutorials we covered almost everything that's necessary to use Inspiration in most instances, but there are a few odds and ends that we can clear up in this tutorial, and that's what we're going to do. So we're going to jump around a little bit, but we'll fill in some of the gaps that we missed in the other tutorials. First of all, generally, Inspiration starts with a white background, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it is possible to change the background color. There's a word of warning here that the background color should be exactly that. In other words, it should stay in the background. This magenta color is a little too retina burning for our purposes. So we want to make sure, first of all, that our background color, that's just right-clicking, is something fairly subtle. And it also should be something that's in high contrast to the text that we have on our page so that we can read our text. Next, in an earlier tutorial we covered how to insert graphics from the symbols library and also how to copy and paste graphics from the internet, but we didn't actually cover how to insert a graphic that we already have saved on disks. So in this case, if we right-click and insert graphic, we can find an image that we have on disk, click open, and that graphic will be inserted. So that's a third way of inserting graphics. Another thing that we can do is we can actually use a fill pattern for our bubbles. So for example there, we'll zoom in so that we can see that a little bit better. There we have a polka dot effect fill pattern for our bubbles. So that's another option. Furthermore, we can change the way symbols display in a number of ways underneath the symbols library. For example, we can turn the shadow, the drop shadow, off for our symbol or our bubble, or turn it back on. And we can also set it as a caption symbol, which means that the text will appear below the bubble rather than in it. And I'll leave it to you to decide whether that's really functional or not, but you have that option. It might be useful in times when you want to keep these bubbles or symbols all the same, no matter how much text there is in them. I'm going to zoom out for the next one. Remember in an earlier tutorial I said that by default we can't see the sounds and the notes that we've attached unless we click on the symbol. But we can actually control that behavior if we go to View and Quick Controls. We have the option of never showing those quick controls, showing them when we've selected that bubble, or always showing them. When we do that, we see here our links and our notes and our sounds all show up for all symbols. Another feature of Inspiration is that it has actually a dictionary or word guide built into it. So if I were to click on this broccoli bubble, for example, and click on Word Guide, it would bring up a note and a definition for broccoli. And in this case, it doesn't show any synonyms, but in the case of words where there might be synonyms, it might find those. So here, for example, with steak, we've looked that word up. It gives us a couple of definitions, and it also gives us a synonym of chop. One feature that's not exclusive to Inspiration, but's worth mentioning, is the undo function. So for example, if I inadvertently change this background color to something that I decided later was not a wise decision, I could go to Edit and Undo from the menu, but easier than that is to use Control-Z to undo. And that takes us back to our previous state. One last feature that's useful in Inspiration is the Arrange function. So if we bring up another Inspiration web or diagram here, here's a common assignment, and that is to create a family tree. Now, one of the things that students might have some difficulty with is getting everything aligned neatly. But if we choose Arrange, we can pick a tree format and click OK, and it automatically spaces and arranges those and aligns them very accurately. We could also arrange it as a web, in which case it's going to go branching out in all directions. That's not useful for this particular assignment, so we will once again use undo, Control Z, to return it to this format. And those are just a few odds and ends of features in Inspiration that we didn't touch upon in the first 7 tutorials.